Hello and welcome to the third breakout session of today. Today we're going to look at Teams and OneNote Class Notebook better together. My name's Stephen Payne. I work as a learning delivery specialist with the Microsoft Education team in Perth, and I am working remotely today on the land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Twitter at StandoutEd, and you can also email me spayne@standouted.com. If you're watching live, please engage with us through the Q&A panel. I'll be asking some questions, but I'd love your insights as we go through this session. And feel free to use the hashtag EduDay2022 if you're sharing on any of the social media sites. So this session is all about getting the most out of OneNote within Teams. Originally I was going to call this Teams and OneNote Class Notebook Better Together ? But then I decided I would be more emphatic and put an exclamation mark there. So let's have a look at what we're going to do. We are going to bring the power of OneNote into Teams, and you'll see how they work seamlessly together, and together they make the best learning experience for your students. So I'd love to know which of you are already using OneNote. So if you're watching live, just put one of these numbers into the chat. Have you heard of OneNote, but you've not used it? Hopefully you have, because you're in this session. Have you tried to use OneNote? Do you use it a bit? All the way up to 5 if you're a OneNote superstar. So let's see who we've got with us today. And I'm sure by the end of the session, you'll all be towards the 4s and 5s of this poll. So what are we going to do in this session? I'm first of all going to give you a quick overview of what OneNote is and how you might use it in a digital classroom. I'll demonstrate how you can create a class notebook and manage that within Teams. I'll show you some of the useful tools within OneNote and how you can strengthen assignments. And I think this is really where the power of OneNote and Teams together really shines through. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time showing you how you can use OneNote with your assignments in Teams. And I'll also show you some good practice, and you can pick up some tips and tricks as we go through today's session. So why are we using OneNote to start with? Well, it's really one place. You can keep all of your teacher notes, students can keep their notes all in one place. And if you keep that in Teams, you've also can link to your conversations and files and lots of other content. Secondly, you can access your notes anytime, anywhere. So you don't have to be in Teams to use OneNote. You can open it in the OneNote app on your desktop computer, on your tablet, on your phone, from wherever you have internet access. So you can always access your class notes as a student and your teaching notes as a teacher. And I think probably the most useful is the fact that you can pretty much use any digital media within OneNote. So you can use digital ink if you're lucky enough to have a pen, a digital pen. You can record audio, video. You can use your device's cameras, any kind of text, everything that you want to do, you can do digitally. So as I said, digital ink, you can draw sketches, diagrams. Teachers can give written feedback to students, as well as audio feedback, as we'll see later. It's great for accessibility. You've got the immersive reader, which allows you to have text read aloud. You can look at it in different languages. There are tools to support communication, reading, writing, and maths, all built into OneNote. And then you've got the ability to insert images, videos, all sorts of interactives from right across the web. I'll highlight some of those as we go through today. And I love being able to just record audio, whether you're using OneNote via Teams or you're using OneNote in a standalone app. You can add audio instructions as a teacher. So you can just really give instructions and prompts and help students in ways that work best for them. And I love the stickers. So you've got a whole load of really great educational stickers, including ones to support social and emotional learning. So you can give students praise for showing courage, or for collaboration, or for thoughtfulness. All these sorts of things can be done within OneNote. So we are today going to focus on the OneNote Class Notebook. And I like to think of OneNote as your digital notebook for all of your learning. So you can set up a class notebook for every team. In a class team, a class notebook is automatically set up. So I like to think of it as your notebook, your textbook, your exercise book, your whiteboard, your filing cabinet, all in one place. And everything is automatically saved as you go along. So if students are answering questions, or if teachers are writing content on the whiteboard, that can all be saved directly into Teams. And I'll give you some great tips on how to sort of automate some of that as well. So you can see just in this one image here, we've got a diagram that's been labeled with text. We've got a sticker here. We're using digital ink to write on it and draw the arrows, and we're also recording audio. So it may be that a student is recording a conversation they're having with a classmate, or something that the teacher's saying, or maybe they're explaining how they have attempted a particular task. So really great ways of working with all sorts of different media. So I'm just going to mention briefly what the Class Notebook offers, and then we'll go and set one up in Teams. So when you set up a class notebook, you have three main areas: the content library, student notebooks, and the collaboration space. In Microsoft Teams now, when you set up a class notebook, you also have a fourth area called teacher only. And the clue is in the title there. That is just for teachers. Students don't see that. So let's have a look at these four different areas. So the content library is where you would share course materials with students. It may be that you are using OneNote during the lesson. Maybe you're annotating a poem, or maybe you're solving an equation in maths, or whatever you're doing. You can do that in OneNote, and that is saved automatically to the content library. That is read-only for the students. So you can put lecture notes, you can share class notes, and you can use that for presenting in class as well. So the collaboration space is where students can work together. Students can, maybe they are doing draft work for an essay, or maybe they are editing and reviewing each other's works, or taking photos of lab experiments, all those sorts of things. You can set up collaboration spaces for small groups or for the whole class, or you can turn that off if it isn't relevant at this time for your class. So content library, read only for the students, collaboration space, editable by both teachers and students. And then you have the student notebooks. And this is where every student has their own notebook within the class notebook. It's a personal space where each student can work. So they can take notes. A teacher can see their notes, but no one else can. So you can go into all of your students' notebooks and give them one-to-one feedback in real time. You can see how they're doing, you can mark their homework, and you can set assignments through Teams that automatically get pushed into their notebooks. So a really great way of students taking ownership of their own learning as well. Then you have a teacher only section, which is just for teachers. So it might be a teacher and an education assistant. It might be a teacher and the deputy principal, however you want to manage it for yourself. So you can have your planning in there. You might want to build content before you're ready to share it out to students. But again, that is just for teachers. So let's see how we can actually set up our class notebook within Teams, and then we'll look at all the fun things that you can do with it. Some schools will have their class teams set up automatically via school data sync. That's something that the IT department can manage for you. If that is set up in your school, you're very lucky. Your class teams are set up and all your students are already added there. But sometimes you'll need to create a team manually. So I'm just going to go through how you create a team and how a class notebook can be created as part of that process. So I've logged onto Teams and I can see my current teams. I'm going to join or create a team. And I'm going to click Create Team. So there's 4 different types of team, but we're interested in class teams because we want to use the OneNote Class Notebook, and the class is what you would generally use for a teaching group. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it Steve-O's Class 2022. And now I'm going to add the students. So I can just start typing in their names and find those students. Or I can copy in their email addresses, depending how I want to set things up. So I'm just going to add a few students for now. And those students will all be members of my team, and they'll all have their own sections set up in the OneNote Class Notebook as well. So I can add students and teachers. And the reason there's two tabs is because there's two different types or two levels of permission within your class notebook and within your team. So I'm not going to add any teachers for now. I can always go back and add them later on. The same with students. So you'll notice that once you've made your class, there's a link to a class notebook already there, along with your assignments, grades, and insights. Now, I can choose where to start in my team, seeing as it's pretty empty. I can upload class materials, or I can set up my class notebook. So just a very quick comment on class materials. Every team has a file store, and within the general channel, inside the file store is a folder called class materials. That's read only for the students. So that's where you can put handouts and resources that you don't want the students to edit. I'm going to leave that for now and go straight in to set up my class notebook. So give your students a private space for notes. Excellent. That's like their personal notebook and a place where they can collaborate. And I'm going to talk more about the options for that later on. So I'm going to set up a class notebook. You'll notice it's very simple. You just follow the steps, and I can either create a blank notebook, or I can bring in content from existing notebooks. And those notebooks might be other class notebooks, or they could be my personal notebooks, or they could be shared department notebooks. And that's really useful if you want to bring in the same content for a number of different classes. So for example, you've got texts for all of your year 8 English classes, or you've got homework tasks for all of your year 9 science, or whatever it might be. So I'm actually going to bring in some existing notebook content to show you how that looks, and so that I've got something in my notebook to try out later on. So we already know the different types of sections that you have. That's just a reminder of that, who can edit and who can view. And here, this is my class notebook. I can add content to my content library. And I can also add content to my teacher only section. So this is just the bit for me, or maybe I've got an education assistant or a shared teacher in my class as well. But this is the stuff that students will be able to see, but not edit. So I'm going to go to the science notebook I used last year, and I'm going to bring in the content from each of these 4 sections. So what will happen is all of the content in there is going to be copied across into my notebook. Similarly with the teacher only section, maybe I want to bring in some templates that maybe I'm going to share with my students later on. Let's have a look here. I've got 3 lots of templates I'm going to be using during the year. But at the moment, they're only visible to me and other co-teachers. And that's it. So I've now brought in all of the content from my previous notebook, and now I can choose the sections that students have in their area. So I've got handouts, class notes, homework, quizzes are the default. I may not use quizzes, so I'll take that out, but I may have an area called projects, so I'm going to add that there. I can add further sections later on. Excellent. So now my class notebook is getting ready. If I brought in a whole lot of content from previous notebooks or other notebooks, it may take a little while, but the nice thing is I will get an alert once everything is copied over on my activity feed, it will say your notebook content has all been copied across. Oh, there we go. We'll send you a Teams message when all your sections have been copied. Excellent. So this is my notebook now. Okay, so let's just have a quick look about how this is set up. So my class notebook is always linked on the side here. Now this is only when I'm in grid view, so I'll just quickly show you this. You're in grid view if you can see all of your different teams, and then you can go into one of those teams and you just see the content from there. There is another option to see your content in a list view, and what this does is it will actually show you all of the content from all of your different teams. So if you're changing or changing between teams quite a lot, or you want to review what's happening in lots of different teams, you may have this list view. You can also pin content at the top. If you are in list view, you do see your class notebook in a slightly different place. You'll go to your general channel, and your class notebook, along with assignments, grades and insights, will be listed along the navigation bar at the top. So if I go into my general class here and I click on class notebook, that's where I can see my class notebook. So just be aware that there are a couple of different places that you see that depending on the view that you're in. So I'm just going to go back to grid view. That's the one I prefer to use so I can focus on what I'm doing. And I'm going to go into my class notebook. Excellent. I obviously don't necessarily need all this navigation while I'm working in the notebook, so I can expand that tab, and that just gives me more space to play with. So I can actually see here, I've got my welcome page. Maybe I'm going to put some information for my students about how they're going to be using their notebook during the year. I've got my collaboration space. There's nothing in there at the moment apart from a guide on how to use it. And then my content library with all of the content I've copied across. My teacher only section with the content I've copied across. And then, well, I've got a very small class, haven't I? Just 4 students. But I can actually, as the teacher, I can go in and see what those students are doing in their class notes, homework, projects, and so on. So if Adele were to log on to Teams, she would only see this section. She wouldn't see the other students, and she wouldn't see the teacher only section. So now I'd like to look at a few of the options you've got for Class Notebook before we go in and see how we can actually use it for communication, collaboration, and assignments. So if I go to the Class Notebook tab within the Class Notebook, you'll see an option called Manage Notebooks. So what I can do here is add additional notebook sections. So this would put a new section into every student's notebook. So perhaps we're going to do an excursion, and I want people to make their notes within a particular section. Every student will get a new section called Excursion Notes. I'm going to show you a couple of things up here. This is really useful. The default location for Notes tab in Channels. So if you're using Teams and you've got lots of different channels, you can actually have a notes section within each channel, and you can decide whether that's a collaboration space, so students can edit the content, or whether it's only viewable to the students. So I'll show you what that means in a second. But I may, for example, make notes during the lesson within Teams from the notes section, and that's automatically saved into the notebook. But you can choose to make it read only if you want, so students don't delete your content and that sort of thing. So it kind of depends on how you want to use that. I will come back to that very shortly. You've also can lock and unlock the collaboration space. So I've now locked this. That means that students can't go into the collaboration space and work together and draw pictures and send each other notes and that sort of thing. So there's nothing that they can do as a group within OneNote. It's just the teacher can send content and the students can work in their personal area. But there will be times when you need students to collaborate, and you can unlock or lock that very easily. So let's just have a look at what this default location for notes means. That's really useful. So I'm just going to close this down. That's my managed notebook, and I'm going to go back to my channel. So if I create a new channel here, do it from up here, add channel. I'm going to call this excursion term 1. So this is a standard team, and I want this to be shown in every student's list of channels. So the really neat thing here is once that channel's set up, I've got an area where I can make announcements, have conversations, share files, but I also have this notes section. And because I've set it up to be read-only for students, I can now put content in here. I can insert from my camera, I can insert files, audio, stickers. I can pick up my pen and draw, all sorts of different things that I can add, and we'll look at some of the content later on. But the nice thing about this is this note automatically, because I've put it in the channel notes, will automatically go into the class notebook and the content library. So excursion term 1 notes, a section is made for that channel, and there my notes are. So that's a really useful tool, and you can decide, as I said earlier, whether that's read-only for the students or whether it's a collaborative space. Now you have all the tools to set up and manage your OneNote Class Notebook within Teams. Before we look at assignments, let's have a moment's reflection. How would you use the teacher-only space in your class? And why might you lock the collaboration space? So please share your thoughts in the chat or any other questions you've got. And we will now go and have a look at how we can build assignments and manage those within Teams. So let's look at an assignment that we might want to set for our students. I'm in my class notebook. I'm just going to expand the tab so I can see a bit more. And if you remember, I brought in some content from a previous year. So I'm going to look at this Earth and Space task. So this is what I want my students to do. I want them to watch this video. This is just a YouTube clip that's been embedded within OneNote. And then I want them to fill in this See, Think, Wonder chart. So a nice simple task. And I want to share this with students. So there's a couple of things. If you've used OneNote Class Notebooks previously, you can go to Class Notebook and you can distribute the page. So you can take this particular page and you can send it out to your whole class. And what that does is it takes that page and it puts a copy into every student's homework page, homework section. So that's kind of the old way of doing things. Now, because we're in Teams, we can actually set an assignment that gives us a lot more options. So I'm going to send this to students, but I'm going to do it via assignments. So I'm not going to do it the old way of distributing the page. I'm going to set it as a formal assignment. So what I'm going to do is go back to Teams, into my class, and I'm going to go to assignments. Okay, I don't think I've got any here because I only made this class team today. So I'm going to create a new assignment. So I've got a few options. I can use an existing assignments. So perhaps if I teach 3 or 4 classes with the same content, I can just go and take the same assignment with the same instructions and settings and share it out again. I can send a quiz, so that is a using Microsoft Forms, a multiple choice quiz or something like that, or I can create a standard assignment, and that's what I'm going to do now. So the only thing really that's required is the title. So I'm going to call this Magnetic Portals homework. But although that's the only thing that's required, there are a few other useful things that you might want to add. You might want to add a category, and this helps organize your content. So if we're doing a space project this term, we can add that as a category, and then students can find all of their assignments related to that really easily. We can add some instructions. So we might want to put the learning outcomes, and we've got a little bit of editing there. I won't do that now. Another thing that I find quite useful is to add in emojis. So I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, Windows full stop, and I can add things like if I want to refer students to a video, or I want to refer them to a textbook, I can actually use those visual cues as well. Now, I'm going to attach that OneNote page and send it out to all my students. So I click attach, and you'll notice there's a range of different things that you can add. As we're talking about Class Notebook, that's what I'm going to choose today. And then I just need to choose which page I'm going to distribute to all my students. So I know it's in the content library, and I know it's in Earth and Space, and it's called Magnetic Portals. So if I attach that, that page of that notebook is going to be distributed to every student's homework section. I also have the option here to assign the page for students to read but not edit. So that might be a time where I've put a whole load of content onto a page, but the students are going to do something else. Maybe they're going to hand in a Word document or a PowerPoint, or they're going to make a video with that content. So I don't want them to necessarily hand in that page, but I want them to have access to it. But in this case, I want them to fill in the table. Okay, that homework has been attached, and it tells me here, student edits their own copy. Excellent. There might be times when you want to set an assignment, but you haven't created a page in your OneNote Class Notebook. So this is a new feature that was added last year. You can now create a number of different documents. So you can create a new Class Notebook page, and you can put it in the relevant section, and then you can distribute it to the students. So you don't have to have created it previously. You can set up the assignment and then go and add the content if you want to. So that's really useful. I can set up rubrics. I can use rubrics that I've used previously in Teams. So here are some that I've used previously. Let's use the Year 9 Science rubric. That's quite a simple one, looking at clarity and creativity. There we go. And I'm just going to attach that rubric. Students will see that rubric as well and can refer to it while they're doing the task. I can assign it to the whole class. All of the students in my class, they each get their own individual assignment, or I can send it just to certain students. So I might want to differentiate and send slightly different tasks to different students. Generally, you can send it to groups of students, but you can't do that with class notebooks. And the reason is because that notebook, or that page from the notebook, is distributed into individual students sections. So if you want the students to work on something collaboratively, you can put a link into a class notebook, but they'd have to actually create it in a PowerPoint or a Word document or a whiteboard or something like that. Okay, I can choose when it's due. Let's say it's due on Friday the 21st at a particular time. And this is quite useful. I can add the assignments to calendars. Excellent. And I can say students and me, and that will actually post to our Outlook calendar when that assignment is due. And I am posting notifications to the general channel, but you could change that depending on how you use Teams. If you might have a channel specifically for homework or assignments, you can change that, but I'm going to leave that and I'm going to assign that now. So there we go. That will be sent to every student, so they will see that pop up in their calendar. They'll also see it in the general channel. It will pop up here that there's been an assignment assigned to them, and they'll also see it in their activity feed up here. So there's not really any getting away from it. So shall we have a look at what a student sees from their point of view, and then how we can actually grade and interact with that. I've logged on now as a student. I've logged on as Enrico, a member of Stevo's class 2022, and you'll see I can view the assignment here. It's also appeared in my activity feed, and I've also got an email telling me that I have an assignment. So I can, if I really like this assignment, why don't I respond to it? I can also reply, so maybe I could ask a question here if I don't understand something, or maybe ask a teacher or a member of the class. But let's go and have a look at this assignment. So I click on View Assignment, and I'll have any of the instructions, I'll have the rubric, and I'll be able to complete this assignment. So there's my instructions, not very detailed. I can see there's 100 points that I can get. And now here is my work. So if I click on Magnetic Portals, it will open up that page. I don't need to open up Class Notebook, navigate to my homework section, find the right homework. With assignments, you're straight in. There we go. So I've got access to this task here. And as it's been given for me to write on, it's not read only, I can fill in the content. So I can watch the video. What do I see? Lots of colors. What do I think? Space is dead big. So I can fill in my content. But there may be times that I want to dictate. So you've got all of the standard OneNote tools. So if I struggle with writing, or if I'm not confident with my spelling, I might want to dictate my answer, and I can click dictate and then go and play that back. I've also got the ability to have access to the immersive reader. So if I struggle with reading, I can click on the immersive reader and have that content read out to me, as well as I can change the text size, the background color to make it easier for me to read, and I can even translate to another language. So if I'm more confident in Dutch, for example, I can click on a word and it will give me the English and the Dutch. Oh, there we go, same word. Denken is Dutch for think, and they've also got a picture dictionary. So you've got some really great tools there to support all students. I've also got the ability to draw. So if I've got a device with a pen, rather than type in my answers, I could maybe write in my answers if I'm using a tablet or something like that. But I can also insert audio. I could give audio answers to the questions, depending on what has been asked of me or what the task is. So lots of different ways I can interact and complete that task. If I close that task down, because it's in a shared area between me and the teacher can actually see what I've written, but to actually alert them to the fact that I've done it, I click the hand in button. And yes, you get some really cool animations when you hand in work. There we go. If I realise that I haven't quite finished it, or I handed it in too early, I can undo it and add to it. So nothing left to hand in. Hashtag winning. Excellent. Now I've logged back in as a teacher, and I can see that somebody, Enrico, has loved my assignment. I can view the assignment from here. I can see all of the assignments I've set for this class by choosing assignments from my list here. And on assignments in my navigation bar on the left, that will actually show me all of the assignments across all of the classes that I teach. So that can be particularly useful in a high school where you teach a number of different classes. But I'm just going to stick in my standard class for now. So let's have a look at this. I can see that 1 out of 4 have handed it in. So right at a glance, I can see whether people have handed it in. You'll see under status, it'll be handed in, not handed in, but also you can see viewed. So perhaps Eldon views the task but decides they're not going to do it yet. If they then try and tell you that they can't find it, well, you can see that they have actually viewed it. So I can open up Enrico's work just by clicking on his name. And I can see his page from his particular OneNote. There's the task, and there is the work that he's done. So I can see his writing, his text. I can open up the rubric, and I can automatically tick off the correct part in each of the tasks. So maybe I'm going to give him an excellent for creativity, and I can write some text here. That's done. I can see his score. I can return it to the student. So straight away, I can give him feedback as an assignment. But I can also use all of the OneNote tools as well. So if I do want to give more specific feedback, I can write on his task. I can add audio feedback. As I mentioned earlier, you've got a whole range of stickers that you can give to the students, including the social and emotional learning stickers. So if he's been really persistent on a particular task, I can give him a sticker, actually will appear on his page, as well as his homework feedback as well. So I can return that to the student and he will see how he's done. But I can also return it for revision. So if he's misunderstood something or he's missed out part of the task, I can send that back to him to review. But I'm just going to return that to the student, and they will see their mark and any feedback that I've given them. I can navigate through the students and see how the students are doing. So I can look at Al's. I can see that he's not handed it in, but maybe he has made a start on it. So I can actually see the work in progress. So you can actually see all of the work that students are doing in their notebook. So I'm going to close that down. There we go. So I can see that there's 3 to return and 1 has been returned. If I click on grades now, I can actually see all the grades for the students in my class. So each time I add an assignment, it's going to appear here, and I can see Enrico's grades are there, and the rest of the class are going to be added when they are completed and marked. I can also export that to Excel if I need to use it in a different learning management system or recording program. So really simple little tool there. Now, if I go back to the class notebook, the great thing here is you have access to all of your assignments from within the class notebook. So if you've used class notebooks in the past, it still works in exactly the same way. You can use it within Teams, like we've been doing today, but you can also open it either in the web browser or in your desktop version of OneNote, where you get additional features. So if I go and navigate my team, I can see this is my work here, but if I go into, say, which student did I choose? Enrico. I can look at Enrico's notebook and I can see all of his homework tasks. So I've opened up Enrico's section. I can go into homework and I can see his magnetic portals work in there, and I can see the feedback that I've given him as well. So it works as a standard notebook, so Enrico can go into his notebook and see all of his homework assignments, but they can also go in and find particular assignments from the assignments page. Now you've seen how you can strengthen assignments by using OneNote Class Notebook content. I wondered whether you want to share some ideas about what sort of content you might add to a OneNote assignment. And there's a whole load of different content that you can embed within OneNote. So I'm just going to highlight some of my favourites while you share your ideas in the chat. So there's a whole range of different content that you can embed within OneNote directly. So we've got Buncee, ClickView, Desmos, Edpuzzle, GeoGebra, Microsoft Forms, Microsoft Stream, Sketchfab, Quizlet, so many of them. And what's nice is you can just go to one of these websites or apps, grab an activity and paste it onto the OneNote page. So here, for example, we're looking at parabolas in maths via Desmos. And this is a simple little activity that you can embed within OneNote. And then you've got the rest of the OneNote page to perhaps ask questions or have students sketching things by the side or underneath. So great if you're using OneNote with maths. Desmos is a great one. GeoGebra also works in a similar way. In this example, we're looking at circle theorems, and we can see that the angle within a semicircle is 90 degrees. Alternate segment theorem, all sorts of different things that you can just copy and paste in from GeoGebra. For science, you've got the interactive simulations from PHET, University of Colorado. So students can do an activity here or play a game, and then they can actually write their thoughts or answer questions beside it. Quizlet is a well-used tool across schools, and here, for example, we've got some Japanese flashcards that we can embed within OneNote. Flipgrid, you can embed Flipgrid within OneNote. Here I've chosen a Flipgrid response page. Sway, the Microsoft tool for creating interactive presentations, that can be embedded within OneNote, and then you can add content at the side. Genially, I've seen used quite a lot. Here we've got a choice board for a novel, To Kill a Mockingbird. So just rather than just having text and images, you can actually make your OneNote a lot more interactive. Forms is another one. Microsoft Forms, you can maybe add a YouTube clip and then a Microsoft form that will respond, that students can respond to, and so on. One other useful thing that you can do is, if you look at the navigation on the left, if you need to use more of the page, you can just hide the navigation and concentrate on reading and responding on the page. So there's a few great tips, and I'm sure we've got lots coming through in the chat as well. Okay, so that's it really. I'm just going to share some resources now on where you can find further information. Thanks for joining us, and see you in the next session. If you want to find further help with OneNote or Teams, click the little help button in the corner of the Teams app and you've got access to training. If you scroll through these videos and guides, there's information about all aspects of Teams, including OneNote Class Notebook and using assignments. I'd also like to bring your attention to the new Microsoft Educator Center on Learn, microsoft.com/learn. If you click Educator Center, you'll find product guides on Teams and OneNote, as well as a whole lot of professional learning. So you can go and explore professional development for using Teams, for empowering student voice, for leadership, all sorts of things using Microsoft tools. So do check this out. Particularly if you go to the Teams area, you'll find interactive demos, quick start guides for both staff and students, and a lot more besides. So I just want to say thank you for choosing to come along to this session. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter @StandOutEd, email me spayne@standouted.com, and remember to use the hashtag EduDay2022. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.